Okay, let's take a look in the next set of problems. If you have a gain of 3 yards and a gain of 2 yards and you're playing football, we want to know the total yardage gained or lost. Okay, we're going to do this problem first and then we have 3 others. Okay, so you're playing football, you have a gain of 3 yards. I understand 3 yards is not a lot. I'm not really a football person, I have to tell you. Basketball is my favorite sport, but my kid plays soccer. Don't tell her I said basketball was my favorite sport. All right, anyway, a gain of 3 yards and a gain of 2 yards. Well, if I look at the number line and I have a gain of 3 yards and then a gain of 2 yards, so I have a gain of 3 and then a gain of 2, that puts me at 5 yards gained. Okay, so I have 5 yards gained. So looking at question 2, we have a loss of 2 yards and a loss of 3 yards. So because it's a loss, we're going to go left, right, to the negatives. So a loss of 2 yards puts me at -2. But now we have another loss of 3 yards, so we got to go 3 yards to the left. So 1, 2, 3, that puts me at -3, -4, -5. So we have a 5-yard loss. Okay. Now, I'd like to leave these on the board, so this may get a little squished up. I'm going to try not to squish too much because I need this for later. Okay. So I'm going to keep these 2 examples up, and then I'm going to put up 3 and 4. Okay. I'm not going to put them up together so that we have some space here. Number 3. Number 3 says a gain of 3 yards and a loss of 2. Okay. Well, we have a gain of 3 yards. That's good. A gain of 3. So we're going +3. That leaves me here at 3. But now we have a loss of 2 yards. So now we got to be sent back 2. So we're here at 1. So a gain of 3 yards and a loss of 2 yards is a gain of 1 yard. Okay. The final question is question 4, which states a loss of 3 and a gain of 2. Loss of 3, and again, look, see, this is how you know when math teachers look. Less words every time I write. Okay, loss of 3, gain of 2. Well, loss of 3 would take me here to -3, but now we have a gain of 2, so we're going to come to the right. A gain of 2, 1, 2 would have me at -1. -1 tells me I have a loss, because it's negative, loss of 1 yard. Okay, so now, let's write some actual math problems out of this. So remember, this was a gain of 5 yards. So I'm going to take a look at this. It says a gain of 3 and a gain of 2. I'm going to write all of these questions using addition. So watch. A gain of 3 would be a +3 and a gain of 2. Because this is the next thing they did, right, the next play, I'm going to write a plus, because I'm going to write it as an addition problem, we said, and a gain of 2. So this is just 3 plus 2, which is 5. That's a simple problem. Okay. Let me do number 2. Number 2 says a loss of 2 yards, which would be -2. And now here comes the second play, and a loss of 3 yards. So that's a -3. Now listen, this is important because generally, I'm putting that parentheses here. Remember, it does not mean it's multiplication because there's a sign between these 2 numbers. So there's no multiplication. But because there's a sign, we'd like to, a sign followed by another sign, we'd like to put that in parentheses so the signs don't get mixed up. Okay, remember this answer, which I've obviously erased, was a loss of 5 yards. So a loss of 5 yards means it's -5. So that's the answer to the second question. Okay. Here in the third question, we have a gain of 3 yards and a loss of 2 yards. So I'm going to write this as an addition problem. We got a gain of 3, which is a +3. I don't want to write the positive. And a loss of 2. Okay, remember, new play, I'm going to write a plus. Loss of 2. That's really what I'm adding there. And that's a gain, which would be +1. Okay, let's take a look at this question. And you don't have to do this with football. You can do this with money. Positive means that you have money. Negative means you owe money. Okay? A loss of 3 yards, which would be -3. The next play, a gain of 2. And that is a loss of 1, which is a negative 1. Okay, so now I'm going to take all of these questions, all of these problems, and kind of summarize them all. Okay. Here's what I see. I see here my signs are the same. I have a positive and a positive. Here I have two of the same signs too, a negative and a negative. And notice what happens. When I have here, I have the same sign. I added and kept the sign. So the positive stayed positives and I added the numbers. When they were both negative, okay, when they were both negative, I added the numbers and the sign stayed the same. So I kept the negative. Here, the signs are different. Notice the signs are different, and I subtracted the numbers. 3 minus 2 is 1. Same thing here, I subtracted the numbers. But here I got negative 1. I disregarded the sign and subtracted the numbers. Here I got negative 1. Here I got positive 1. Let's think about why. Here my gain was more than my loss. Since my gain was more than my loss, I was going to have gained in the end. So that's why that came out positive. Here my loss was more than my gain. So here's what I'm trying to say. We can give you a big time rule for this, or I can tell you to think either football or money. This says to me, I have $3, I have $2, I have $5. This says I owe you $2, I owe you $3, so I owe you $5. Okay? Just think money. Remember, but if it's negative, you owe money, and you have to pay your money. You have to pay your bills. So if you owe somebody money, you have to pay them. Okay. So I have $3, but I owe you $2. If I have $3 and I owe you $2 and I pay you, I have 3, I owe you 2, what's the deal for me? I have $1 left. Okay? If I owe you 3 and I have $2 and I pay you, I owe you $1. So we're going to just think money. So in your notebook, it says, or workbook, it says that there are two approaches for addition. You either have the intuitive approach, which is this, think money, or this really thrown out approach, which is if the signs are the same, do this, and do all these things, which I'm not going to do. I'm not going to deal with the formal approach. If you'd like to, feel free, but I'm going to do the intuitive approach, which is money. Okay, so I'm just going to think money the whole way through. Okay, so let's look at this next set of problems. All right, I'm going to do these with you. I think if you just think money, I think everybody understands money. If you think money, we're good. Okay, so number 1. We're going to start with numbers that are really small. 3 plus negative 1. Okay. Think of this as I have $3, but I owe you $1. So if I have $3, but I owe you $1, I have $2. Done. Okay. Let's do number 2. Negative 5 plus 2. I owe you 5, so I owe you $5, but I have $2. If I owe you $5 and I have $2 and I actually pay you, okay, that means I just owe you $3. I'm going to do the next one with you, and then if you can do the rest, and then we'll check your answers. So here's number 3. Negative 3 plus negative 8. I owe you $3, and I owe you $8. If I owe you 3 and I owe you 8, you're a pretty good friend to keep lending me money, by the way, because I'm not paying you back, it doesn't look like. So I owe you $3, I owe you $8, so I owe you $11. Okay? So try the next 4. And then we'll check your answers. Okay, let's see how you did. When you get to bigger numbers, it's a little more difficult, but let's take a look. If I owe you 5, but I have 8, that means I have $3. Okay? If I owe you $22, but I have nothing, I can't pay you, I still owe you $22. Okay. For this one, I have 12, but I owe you $22. Now, you know this answer is going to be negative, so I would take care of the sign first. You know it's going to be negative because I'm still going to owe you money. So I owe you $12. If I give you that 12, then I don't owe you as much. I know I have to subtract here. Now, I'm sure you can subtract in your head, but just so to make sure you understand, when you subtract, you always still put the biggest number first. That has nothing, it doesn't change anything. So it's 22 minus 12, which is 10. So this is negative 10. I owe you $56, but I owe you now $10 more. That tells me I owe you a lot of money. That tells me that I owe you $66. I have to add these together because I owe you this and I still owe you this. Okay, so this is negative 66. All right, so I hope that worked out. Let's take a look at something we've already done before. Let's take a look at these problems. And you tell me what you see. Negative 3 plus 3. 5 plus negative 5. We want each of these sums. Sums means to add, remember? Negative 6 plus 6. Okay. Well, in each of these questions, what do these terms look like? Well, if you remember, these are opposites. These are opposites. These are opposites. Now let's add them. I owe you $3, but I have $3. If I pay you back, what's the deal? Yep, right back at 0. I have $5, but I owe you $5. All right, right back at 0. I owe you $6, but I have $6 right back at 0. So what will always be true about the sum of a number and its opposite? It will always be 0. In this next problem, I'm going to do the first one with you, and then I'm going to ask you to do the rest. And it says, if the temperature dropped 12 degrees and then dropped 7 degrees. Well, if it dropped 12 degrees and then dropped 7 degrees, it dropped 12, and then this is what happens next. We said we're going to write as an addition problem. That's what it says in your workbook. So this is negative 12 because it dropped 12 degrees, and it dropped 7 degrees. Now we want to know what the final outcome is. So again, I'm going to use money. I owe you 12. I owe you 7. So I owe you 19. Of course, this is degrees because we are really talking temperature. So that's number 1. If you would try 2 through 4, and we'll come back and look at your answers. Okay, let's see how you did. Number 2, Mr. Borman made a withdrawal of $87. Withdrawal would mean taking money out of the bank, so that's negative 87. That's all we ever do is take money out of the bank. Anyway, and then he made a deposit, so this is the next thing he does. We're going to write it as an addition problem. That's what it asks us to do on these problems. And then he made a deposit of $150. Okay, so now let's see what we got. He had a withdrawal of 87, a deposit of 150. Well, he put more money in than he took out, so that's going to be a positive answer. I'm going to write that down right away so I know that. But now, of course, it's not 150 because he took out this much. I have to subtract. Okay, so I'm going to do 150 minus 87. That's 63. So now you have $63. And again, I didn't need to write that plus, but it was important for me to deal with the sign first so I didn't screw up the sign. Okay? So let's take a look at number 3. Number 3 says Rosie gained 4 pounds. Rosie gained 4 pounds, so that's a positive 4 because she gained it. That's not really a positive thing. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. But it's a gain, so it's 4. Okay? And then lost 6 pounds. Then she lost 6 pounds. So it's a negative 6. So I have $4, but I owe you 6. That means I'm going to be down money. I have 4. I owe you 6. I owe you $2. And that's number 3. 1 left. Number 4. Rex Clothing Store reduced the price. If you have a reduction in price, that's a negative. It means to go down. He reduced it by $20, some suit, and then reduced it again. Remember, we said we would make addition problem, so this is the next thing he does. Reduced it again by 11. So I owe you 20 bucks. I owe you 11. Now I owe you a whole ton of money. I have to add these, negative 31. That's how you add integers. It's pretty easy. Next time, we're going to be multiplying and dividing integers.